Dr. Humphrey just presented all that information as far as bridging the gap, equity and belonging, and the survey. And so, in the PCLF, as you begin to think about all of that, what the goal of this is to really build out an ecosystem of equity and belonging on Staten Island. And so in order to understand that an ecosystem, what that looks like, it just provides, again, opportunities is the key word here, always, to build this kind of capacity so we can begin to collaborate, right? It then leads to, if you look at all, you could find yourself in this circle, and if not, we'll make sure that you're there, right? It creates an opportunity for us to kind of create this system of options that's clear and understanding. So we want to kind of imagine ourselves in this ecosystem where also when we build a system like this, it's a great appeal for funders. We bring funders in to be partners so they can be real responsive partners. And when you think of a healthy ecosystem, everyone plays a crucial role. So next slide. So you can begin to start thinking about some of these. So what does that lead us into some of these questions that we may have? How do we do this, right? How do we begin to, that's the question we're asking. That's why we're trying to build this collaboration, because how do we transform systems and beliefs? How do we expand this shared understanding, all right? Who should be the players in this ecosystem? Who's not engaged that should be, and how do we get them? How do we get people to contribute to this stronger ecosystem? And when do you see these opportunities to shift? Like, where does that happen? Next slide. So one of the ways that we're thinking so that we understand, you know, in academia, we always build ourselves on some kind of a theory or foundation. So we're really building on this results-based accountability by Friedman. And so what we're doing is we're starting with the end in mind. We're starting with, how do we want Staten Island to look? If we had all the resources and we had all the collaborations and partnerships that we ever could want, what would that look like? So what do we want? And how do we know, how would we recognize that we've gotten what we wanted, and then what would it take to get there? And so one of the ways we talked about that is actually the language, right? Not excluding anybody. I saw somebody putting that on the text, on the chat. We're not meaning to exclude anyone. If that's not the intention, if it comes off like that, it's an opportunity for us to facilitate change. Do not become upset. See it as an opportunity to teach us something for us to grow. So this is just a framework for us to look at it. As you can tell, we don't really have the ways to quantify equity and belonging yet, because the goal is the survey will help us with that information. So we don't have all the answers yet. We just have these ideas. And the goal is we want all Staten Islanders to feel a sense of belonging and have a clear path to do it. So once we've done this work, the framework says, how much did we do that we said we was going to do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off? That's the ultimate 3 questions that we want to ask. Next slide. And so these are just some examples, some quick examples that Myra will just take us through as we're moving towards the end.
Enough time. Alexa will share the PowerPoint. So that you can see, this is an example of a community in San Francisco who asked their neighbors to share where were the places of belonging, and then they voted and nominated organizations and institutions and formally certified those organizations as places of belonging. And so this happened through a coalition of organizations that came together to ask their community about that. And the next slide is another example of what could result from an ecosystem of equity and belonging. The Blueprint in North Carolina is a network of 46 nonprofit, nonpartisan organizations that work together to create collective impact in regards to social justice and equity across racial lines. And they have done, as you see, some of the projects I put up there, they're diverse in what they have done. To work together to find common ground on projects that they can't do alone, but they can do collectively. And this is another example of what it could look like. What's the imaginations? We're just putting them out there so you can get a sense. Thank you. Alexa is going to share with us opportunities to partner. I also just want, if everyone can give, whether it's a silent or an informal or formal clap to Alexa. Alexa has been just a pivotal leader in our project, and many of you are here because of Alexa. So we just want to thank and appreciate Alexa for her leadership. And
thank you so much, Myra. And thank you guys. I'm excited to be a part of this. I think as I said in the beginning, all too often the folks that I support and that I care about with disabilities are very often left out of these conversations about intersectionalities that they experience and identify with. And I think that's a great point to bring us where we are here. So I know that how I function is really tangibly, right? And I know a lot of partners that I've spoken to are like, okay, what exactly can I do? How can I be a part of this? What will it look like? And so here's 4 different ways that people can partner with us on this project. And I think it's important to talk about, we may all be at different levels and experiences and ready for different elements of partnering with this project. So there's a variety of ways that you can do that. So the first way is inviting your community members, your organizations, the people you're supporting or serving, your employees, invite them to simply participate in the survey. Share the survey with them, get the word out there, help us network and make sure that folks are aware of the project that's going on, because that's one of the key points that all of the partners that I've spoken to and a lot of you that have joined on the call, and we talk about it a lot, that a lot of organizations are doing this work in silos. And so we want to make sure that we can do this as a collective and have a larger impact. And the second way is to invite your networks to really join us and join other community leaders in sharing, not only the survey, but what's going to come out of this survey and the data that's going to be available after this survey, and what to do with that, and then meeting and joining and figuring out what the next steps are. The third way is applying to become a part of the public conversations for Change Leadership Fellows Project. And I'm going to be a part of that training. I think it's something that I could really benefit from in my early stages of leadership and where I can help and support my community. And so that's another way that organizations can invest in this and say, our organization is going to, allow our employees to take part in, trainings X, Y, and Z, and commit the time to invest in that. And then, as Myra was saying earlier, and I know some folks were asking questions, and we're going to get to the questions in just a moment, and we'll answer them the best that we can, but that we are also asking for organizations and those that are supporting a large variety of folks to participate in a pilot of assessing the survey to make sure that it is accessible and adaptable for the folks that you're supporting and working with in your networks. And so that'll be there. And I think